Hi class. Welcome once again. Can you imagine why a dog loves to chew, but a butterfly just sips? Let's find out. Before going further, let's do a recap of what we studied in our last class. In our last class, we defined digestion and the digestive system. We explored parts of the alimentary tract and their functions. And we also discussed the alimentary tract in different animals. Let's proceed to today's lesson. First, let's see the lesson objectives. By the end of this lesson, you should be able to 1. Define feeding mechanisms in animals. 2. Illustrate feeding mechanisms in some animals. By now, you will be wondering what is a feeding mechanism. Feeding mechanisms are the specialized ways in which animals obtain and digest food to meet their energy needs. There are 5 modifications and mechanisms of feeding associated with some organisms. These feeding mechanisms include the absorbing mechanism, biting and chewing mechanism, sucking mechanism, grinding mechanism, and trapping and absorbing mechanism. Let's discuss each of them. The first is the absorbing mechanism. This mechanism is used by endoparasites which practice parasitic feeding on their host. An example is a tapeworm. Tapeworm has no mouth but absorbs digested food from the intestine of the host. The alimentary tract is absent in tapeworm, hence, food is absorbed through its entire body surface. The body of tapeworm is modified and adapted to parasitic feeding in the following ways. It possesses a hook and sucker for the attachment to the intestine of their host. The body has a thick cuticle that protects the organism from being digested by the host enzyme. Next is the biting and chewing mechanism. This method is adopted by insects such as grasshopper and cockroach. They have 4 mouth parts which are modified and adapted for biting and chewing. These mouth parts are: first is the labrum. It is a projecting upper part of the mouth which prevents food from falling off the mouth while chewing. The second part is the mandible. These are a pair of heavy, toothed, and jaw-like structures used for biting and cutting food materials. The next mouth part is the maxillae. The maxillae is a mouth part that is used for breaking down food which the mandibles have chewed for easy digestion. Let's see the last mouth part of the grasshopper and cockroach. That is the labium. The labium is the lower lip. It is used to prevent wastage of food from the mouth. Let's move on with the next feeding mechanism. We will look at the sucking mechanism. 3 popular organisms feed in this manner. They are mosquito, butterfly, and housefly. These insects have different modifications of mouth parts for their feeding. We will start with the mosquito. The mosquito possesses a piercing mouth part called a proboscis. It is a long or tubular mouth part used for sucking the blood of man and other animals. The mouth parts altogether form a strong stylet capable of penetrating the skin to open it up and suck blood. Then, the labium, which is the lower lip, is adapted for sucking and it can be folded back to allow stylet to function in cutting the skin open. The mouth of a mosquito can produce saliva which prevents the clotting of blood while feeding. Let's look at the next organism that exhibits the sucking mechanism. Next is the butterfly. The butterfly feeds on liquid food like nectars of flowers. Their mouth is located between the eyes, and it's modified for sucking. The butterfly possesses a long coiled proboscis, which is used for sucking nectars of flowers. And this proboscis can be recoiled under its head when not in use. Butterflies have hair-like structures on their feet to sense food, and it is also responsible for tasting the food. We will move on to the housefly. The housefly feeds on liquid food materials. It also can feed on solid food, like sugar. But first, it uses the proboscis to pour out its saliva to change the food to a liquid state. It possesses enlarged labella, which are sucking structures that aid rapid absorption of liquid food into the mouth. The next feeding mechanism is the grinding and chewing mechanism. Grinding and chewing mechanism is common among mammals like man, dog, sheep, and so on. These animals are capable of grinding their food before swallowing. The grinding is aided by the presence of hard and strong teeth made up of enamel and dentin. Mammals like man and dogs have 4 different types of teeth, namely, incisor, canine, premolar, and molar. The incisor has a sharp edge that is used to cut food. The canines are pointed and they are used for tearing flesh or other material. The premolars and molars are flat teeth that grind and mash food. Now, let's look at the trapping and absorbing mechanism. This kind of mechanism is common among insectivorous or carnivorous plants such as bladderwort, sundew, Venus fly, and others. They have structures that enable them to adapt to this mode of feeding. The plants have special qualities that attract and trap flies and other insects. Such qualities are bright flowers, scent, and sugary nectar. If the word nectar is new to you, I will explain. Nectar is a sweet, liquid substance produced by flowers and some plants. The plant also possesses a digestive juice, which when a prey is trapped, will trigger off to kill and digest the prey. The leaves of these plants have long hairs which carry digestive glands. We have come to the end of this lesson. Please, attempt the following assignment. 1. Define feeding mechanisms. 2. Identify 5 feeding mechanisms in organisms. Before we wrap up, let's review what we studied today. In today's lesson, we defined the feeding mechanisms. We also illustrated different feeding mechanisms in some animals. In our next class, we will look at the feeding habits of some animals. Thanks for your time. See you soon.